Oh, sorry. Okay. There's an LC. Welcome to the semi-finals of the Melbourne Legacy League. I'm Chris Chant, and this is.
I'm Wilfie Hurry. Great to be with you.
So we have Matthew Larkham and Daniel Hohouse. Matthew's playing Mud, and Daniel's playing Miracles.
Sound more animated. It's going to be a great match.
Should be a wonderful match.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. So this is the semi-finals. Both these opponents have beaten someone in the top 8 already. Do we know about that?
Not quite.
Not quite. That's okay. We'll leave it to the listeners to figure it out.
I think I saw Daniel packing up with his opponent from the previous round. Was he playing like lands or something like that?
That's possible.
But yeah, so I got there a bit late.
We'll get that information forthwith.
Okay, I think they're ready to go over. Here we go.
Yeah, it looks like they're starting now. Daniel's on the left and Matt is on the right. So from Dan's side, we see Counterspell, Helm, some lands, and a top, I think. It looks like a reasonable hand, and a Rest in Peace. So I think he has the full Helm Rest in Peace combo already, although it's not too easy to see with the glare.
Yeah, I can't see the right.
Yeah, that's definitely a Rest in Peace, second from the left, and Helm. So it looks like Dan is going to mulligan. Probably weren't enough lands or something, or maybe he knows what Matt's playing. That's right, because Helm and Rest in Peace wouldn't be very good when you want to interact on turns like 1 through 3, right?
Yeah. Did we see anything in Matthew's hand? I didn't quite make anything out.
No, me neither, but I'm sure it'll become apparent soon enough.
But I guess supposedly he's keeping.
Yeah, so Mud. How do you think the matchup will play out? I think that Mud will want to try and develop some mana early and try and cast a big spell, so it's on Miracles to supply some early interaction. So this 4-land True Name Rest in Peace hand, like, really doesn't seem like it's going to be good. Yeah, he mulligans again to 5. Like, both of those hands could have been keepable against a random opponent.
Yeah, so Matt kind of just gets to do his thing, I guess, pretty unfazed by the matchup, and Daniel, I guess the onus is really on him to really kind of win the game.
Yeah, exactly. Matt doesn't really have any interactive spells. He's just trying to execute his game plan as quickly as possible, and so he's probably happy to keep any combination of hands, like any combination of lands and spells against basically any opponent. Whereas Dan, 2 okay hands had to be mulliganed, and starting on 5 isn't really where you want to be, but Brainstorm, Force, and Counterbalance definitely is.
So I guess mulliganing more aggressively is fine.
Yeah, because the Mud deck's going to expend so many of its resources to cast its first spell that, like, you can see a Spine of Ishtar in Matt's hand, which isn't really the type of card you want in an attrition match in Legacy. You really just want to try and cast it as early as possible. And so having Force or other early interaction seems essential.
So what's the land that Daniel played?
I think it's a Tundra, but the glare is pretty severe.
It's just a test print.
It would make sense for it to be a Tundra. Yeah, so Matt's played an Ancient Tomb, so propelling him straight from 1 to 3.
Oh, Scalding Tarn, I think was...
Yeah, it's a Scalding Tarn, which is, perfect. Cool. Scalding Tarn, blue fetch land island is a perfect complement to a Brainstorm. And Brainstorming in response to a Trinisphere, and it could get Spell Pierced, although it's possible that Daniel just wants to let it resolve. It does kind of constrain his mana, so I would expect it to get Spell Pierced, but it's not. So
what did he pick up? He
drew a Brainstorm, top, and a Spell Pierce.
Spell Pierce, okay. Sorry.
It's all good. So, yeah, Dan's just thinking about how he wants this turn and the next turn to go, because he's going to have to draw one of the cards again from the Brainstorm. So, whether he wants to bottom something Yeah, what card doesn't he want? Won't he need in the next turn?
Looks like he's happy to not have that other brainstorm.
Yeah, that would seem like the most
Perhaps,
reasonable choice, but it really depends on what you think you're going to want to do with your mana. Oh, of course, he's cracking the fetch.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2 islands in play seems like a reasonable choice against the opposing wasteland, and it's getting spell pierced. Yep, perfectly reasonable. Although I find it strange that he would want to shuffle away the force. It seems like that would be important.
Yeah. So he doesn't have one at all now, and he's kept the counterbalance. Is that right?
Yeah, so his hand is Plains Counterbalance top, which is a fine hand. Like, once you've mulled to 5, that's probably the hand that you want on turn 3.
Does he really want that counterbalance against Matthew so much more than the prospect of a Force of Will?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because it doesn't really... Like, this turn he can't... basically, his counterbalance is off, because he's going to flip randomly.
Yeah.
And then... it seems like from how Matt's deck functions, it doesn't really look like counterbalance is going to be exceptional. Yeah. But we'll see how that develops. And the blind flip. Oh, hits. Jesus. That's an Entreat the Angels, which has a... You cast it for XX white, 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 which counts as a Trinisphere quite nicely. But it would be a very poor draw, so I'd expect it to get just floated on the top to use with counterbalance.
So he sees...
A Swords, a Terminus, and an Entreat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But he has Island down, so he actually can't play
the
swords. Is that correct? Okay.
That is correct. But I wouldn't expect it to be that important because you would. I don't think Matt has any haste creatures or anything like that.
Yeah, fair enough. He does have a lightning greaves.
Oh,
but
he
I mean, I'm
he
sure
has the lightning greaves.
Yeah, I think I saw one when I was looking through the deck lists before.
Yeah, he has lightning greaves. But nothing really that Dan can do about that. So it looks like Matt's just thinking about what he wants to do, or is he passing? I can't exactly tell.
I think Daniel's spinning.
Right, but I mean, like, end step or what?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Matthew
I think
passed
so, by
the
look
turn.
at it, yeah.
Yeah, sweet. So it's strange to see him passing with like 3 or more cards in hand, given that he has lots of mana. But we expect that either some of them are 3 drops, that would be possible, or that he has more expensive spells in his hand. Like 5 mana might not be enough to do what he wants to do, or he's just saving up because Dan isn't pressuring him. He's saving up to be able to deploy 2 spells on a turn.
Yeah.
And maybe overpower the counterbalance that way. But it is kind of funny that he's basically on a clock from his Ancient Tombs, even though Dan isn't going to deal him any damage. The fact that he has 2 Ancient Tombs and 3 Ancient Tombs now, I think. Or I'm not sure what all those Vesuvas are, but...
Did he draw them?
Yeah, they're all Ancient Tombs. They're all Ancient Tombs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that Wormcoil is going to go a long way to trying to regain him the life and close the game. But it gets flipped by counterbalanced by Terminus. Which, this is, looking quite good for Daniel because the fact that he didn't need it, he could save his swords and flip Terminus means that he has a Terminus in case Matt deploys a threat. He has the swords in case Matt deploys a threat, and he has the counterbalance still active. So looks like a really good position for him.
This is unfortunate. I guess we don't get to see what he names here.
I'm sure we'll be informed soon enough.
Very soon.
Probably something good. What would you name here?
I don't know. What's he really afraid of? So he's got 9. Okay. Forge Master. Okay. I mean, Titan. He's already hitting 1 Wormcoil.
Maybe Sundering Titan. Like, we don't know how much of Matt's deck list that Dan knows. Like,
sure. I mean, I guess maybe Titan. The other stuff he can just deal with his swords
exactly.
anyway.
Titan is the only thing which is basically because he can't. Chalice of the Void. That's also very reasonable. Yeah, and now the Titan comes down.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard to, like, determine that Titan would be the thing to name without knowing his full deck list, right? Like, but this Titan's going to be pretty insane.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, without finding a force, it's really going to be a struggle for Daniel to deal with it because his land's going to get killed, so he can't swords it, so he's going to start taking damage. And even when he swords it, plows it, then the other island's going to die.
And Matthew's still got the wasteland untapped, so even if he does play a non-basic, that's not really
Yeah,
doesn't really
exactly.
get him particularly out of trouble.
But another thing to notice is that Matt's on 2 from his Ancient Tombs, so he's basically locked out of casting any more spells until he gains life somehow, which is difficult, if not impossible, without, of course, having spells to cast. So it looks like it's really the Sunring Titan's going to race Matt's
Meddling Mage, which is lethal.
Daniel's Meddling Mage. Yeah. Oh, that's right. He can't even attack. I didn't see the Meddling Mage. This glare is not the best, but yeah, you're right. If he can't attack, it's so much better for Daniel because it's not realistic for him to when Matt can't cast any spells, Daniel's eventually going to find some way to deal with the Sunring Titan and regain control.
Yeah. He kind of has that, I guess, inevitability somewhat.
Yeah, definitely to some degree, especially when Matt lost 8 mana worth of his lands by due to his life total.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like the Metalworker got counterbalanced, and now that's the City of Traders, and now the fetch land is getting cracked to change the cards around. To find a new set of cards. So that's actually interesting because it means that Matt might have a chance to resolve another 3-drop again. I don't know exactly how many 3s Dan plays. It looks like he's found a Blood Moon. But, disregarding that, I'm not certain. Yeah, so it looks like the Sunring Titan's going to have to stay on D for a while, which spells bad news for Matt. Although it is funny that if Dan were to play the Blood Moon, it wouldn't even be good for him because he'd re-enable all those Ancient Tombs.
True. So Matt plays out a Metalworker.
Yep, and there's going to be either a spin or just a flip if he's feeling bold enough, but the Metalworker is definitely going to get countered.
So that's a Jace.
Jace, a Blood Moon, and some proxy, I think a Tundra? I'm
I
not
think
entirely
you're
certain. Tarn. Yeah, so 2 lands, a Blood Moon, a Jace, and a Tarn. The Tarn is important because it means that Dan has the ability to play more lands while keeping those cards on top. Basically the Tarn gives him maximum flexibility. He can shuffle the cards away if he doesn't want them. He can keep them if he does want them. And if he were to remove the Sunring Titan, having fetch lands allows him to lose the minimum number of lands.
Yep. So now he's... Sorry, what's happened here?
4 cards are being drawn.
Did he accidentally pick up a...
Yeah, I believe so. I'm sure.
Yeah, okay, so there's a judge call. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's going to spin top and accidentally just picked up a 4th card.
Yeah, we've all done it before. Chant... has?
No, I don't know if I have.
Chant's never done anything like that.
I don't know how often I've actually spun top.
Uh-huh. It's a yucky card, that's for sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, I'm sure this issue will be solved in due time, so we can talk about something else. What do we think about the sideboard plans for both players?
So, if we go down to the sideboard, Matt has a Revoker, which I guess is definitely a possibility. Sorry, so Revoker, Duplicant, Ensnaring Bridge, Ratchet Bomb,
Sphere and Thorns. It looks like his main deck is pretty well set up. His sideboard doesn't really seem like it adds much for this matchup because I assume he'll be on the he'll play as though he only needs to land 1 threat. So it doesn't really make much sense to side out threats for like more threats.
Is there anything he takes out in particular? Like,
No, all his cards seem pretty good.
okay, and then
Like the main deck is pretty well configured.
yeah, fair enough. And Daniel, how do we feel Daniel's going to go?
Yeah, so,
So his sideboard.
for anyone who missed that, Jace ended game 1 by bouncing the Titan and laying the Meddling Mage attack. So yeah, Dan has
EA, Ensnaring Bridge, Aethersworn Canonist, Energy Field, Humility, Terminus, Supreme Verdict, 2 Wear and Tear, Counterspell, Flusterstorm, Swords, and a V-Click.
Yeah, that's a much better side. Like Dan's definitely advantaged in the sideboarding, and not just because as a control deck he generally has a better sideboard, but because he gets to take out all his useless combo cards, which don't really interact positively. Like, the whole plan is to stop Matt from doing anything, not do something especially powerful himself, because as you noted before, he has inevitability. So by being able to side in a bunch of versatile answers, he constrains Matt's ability to cast powerful spells early without really losing that much himself.
Yeah. Okay. So, in particular, what do you think he brings in? So, I guess the Wear and Tear.
I would expect 2 Wear and Tear, 1 Counterspell, 1 Swords, definitely. Then maybe Terminus, Humility, V-Click, some combination of those, depending on how he thinks the matchup's going to play out. Humility is kind of slow, but once it's in play, it's backbreaking.
Yeah.
But it's maybe uncertain whether he thinks that he'll want to survive to that point. He wants a card that's only good at that point, basically.
Okay.
And Terminus, it's good against Wormcoil especially, but it doesn't match up well against Forge Master or Sunring Titan, which might be a problem.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so he's siding out how I said. He's siding out 2 Rest in Peace, 1 Helm, 1 Blood Moon, and siding in the Wear and Tear, the Counterspell, and the Swords, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, it doesn't really seem like the combo plan does much for him, because that's not where he's positioned in the matchup. He can't combo more effectively than the match, so his advantage is in his early interactivity. And do we have an idea how Matt's sideboard? I wouldn't be surprised if Matt just didn't sideboard any cards.
At all, yeah.
That would be totally reasonable, I think. Or maybe a couple small switches.
Yeah,
he might
1 or 2
change the Blights. He might change the Platinum Angel maybe for the Metamorph or Duplicate.
Does he maybe take out the Worm Coils at all, knowing that Dan's not really going to aggro him out at all, so the Lifelink's a bit less relevant?
That's true, but if you look at his sideboard doesn't really contain any replacement threats. He mainly he's decided wisely to focus on his combo matchups. So he's sided in he has the Spheres and the Thorns, which aren't really effective here, and the Ratchet Bombs I assume for tokens or whatever. Oh, actually the Ratchet Bombs might be okay here.
It kills Counterbalance.
Having something that can come down before Counterbalance and deal with Counterbalance could be okay. So I might.
It kills Jace, kinda.
Yeah,
it's not the greatest.
You definitely lose value, but I think that if he wants an answer to Counterbalance, Ratchet Bomb could be it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the sideboarding is going well. Looks like they're just about to start shuffling up and start the second game now. So Matt's on the play, which we think is I think is going to be pretty important, just because it really it constrains what the type of hands that Dan can keep in a much greater way. I kind of one interactive Counterspell and some the Counterbalance top thing might not be good enough on the draw, whereas on the play it would be spectacular.
Likewise, if Matt was on the draw, do you think he mulligans in a different way? Does he really care that much?
No, I don't think so. His that deck, you would assume. I don't have any experience with it, but it's not the type of deck that really gets to make mulliganing choices based on the matchup, because without any sort of card filtering, no Brainstorm, no Ponder, no Top, nothing like that, no Preordain, etc.
It's harder to recoup those losses.
It's much harder. You mulligan because your hand is bad, and you can't really because all your cards basically do the same thing, you don't really have the luxury to
Yeah.
side in to mulligan depending on how the intricacies of the mashup.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's die rolling just clearly strategically.
Yeah, there's some strategic die rolls. I'm a big fan of strategic dice rolls.
All die rolls are strategic, yeah?
They are. Should we play maybe like you pick a number and then we guess you guess what number is going to roll? You have
Sure,
to guess
vintage is
quickly,
later though, right?
Yeah, vintage. I think the
Vintage is
vintage
later.
league is at a separate time. Stay tuned. I think Stink and Show will do the coverage again.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can guess. Guess now.
6. I
Now.
don't know.
You're not fast enough.
Okay. 8. I've never been told that before. 9? No, I guess that afterwards, okay. So, Daniel's finished sideboarding. So I
And,
guess
yeah.
there is some tanking on that for a little bit. I mean, his is definitely more involved than
Yeah, definitely.
Matt's,
There's
as we
actually
spoke about.
as I said, there's quite a few ways he can go. Like V-click is, for example, another card which might be
Yeah.
good depending on whether you're on the play or on the draw.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep.
Like if you're on the play, it might be able to disrupt them, whereas on the draw, maybe not. Although maybe it's good, regardless.
Yeah.
But it's definitely would be worse on the draw because if you play it after they play their spell, then
Yeah.
because that deck mainly can get draws where it has only one business spell and all mana, V-click can be not as useful there. But we'll see.
Okay, so Dan looks like he has some lands, counterbalance, swords. I can't see what that white card is. Is that humility?
Yeah, it might have been humility.
I can't quite see.
Looks like he's
But
tanking.
he's shuffling it
We'll
anyway.
find out later.
And Matt's turn? So did you quite?
Yeah, I
manage to
saw
catch it?
a Lodestone Golem, a Glimmer Post, but not much else.
Okay.
But it looks like from the little I saw, I think he might have another land. So I'm expecting him to keep it. We're not. Oh, he's on the play, so yeah, he's already kept.
And so Lodestone Golem, how powerful do you feel that is in this matchup format?
I think it's probably not one of the most important cards. I'd say the most important cards are the mana producers because they really let you, if you skip a turn, it's so bad because it gives your opponent a turn where they don't have to, spend their mana interacting with you.
Yeah.
And they can spend their mana setting up. So
It also chokes up on Daniel's ability to kind of sit back and spin and just play forces out.
yeah, that's true. It is important, but probably not one of the most important cards.
Yeah.
But having it in play definitely, it's a card that needs to be answered just
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
how efficient it is.
So it looks like Daniel has
Grim
swords,
Monolith.
Jace.
sorry, yeah.
Daniel. Swords, Jace, Supreme Verdict, and 3 lands.
Yeah, so Terminus, Swords, Jace, Verdict,
Yeah.
4 lands, as far as I can see. Or something like that, at least.
Yeah.
And he played a fetch land. Yeah, an island, a mesa, and another flooded strand.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of the perfect draw for Matt.
Yeah.
There's
Cool.
very little that... I mean, there's not nothing that Dan can do, because Trinsphere and Lodestone Golem actually don't interact that well. Swords to Plowshares on the Golem costs 3, even...
Regardless.
yeah. So,
I mean, it's still a 5-4? 5-4?
it's a 5-3.
5-3, sorry.
But Dan doesn't have any damage-based removal. So,
yeah.
but yeah,
2 is better than 1.
but yeah, so this is exactly what Matt wants to do. He wants to use his minor acceleration to cast some spells early. And in the ideal situation, Dan won't cast a spell this game, but it looks
Okay.
like he's found his 3rd land,
Yeah.
so he's going to be able to at least swords the Golem.
Well, he might brainstorm away, and then next turn, end of turn brainstorm, and then the Terminus.
but,
on the
that's
following
true.
Turn.
Yeah, you're right. That would be good because the Terminus costs 3. Yeah, actually that would be the best because it stops Matt from playing a spell this turn as well. Yeah,
That requires him taking 10, I guess.
oh, actually, he did
which is good.
he sided in the Thorns, so it was just on the mana denial plan.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see whether that changes on the play or on the draw.
Yeah.
But this is actually Dan is forced to Swords the Lodestone in
Yeah.
response because he won't be able to cast Terminus on his turn.
Yeah. Grabbing all basics, but look at that.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah,
his
like,
mana requirements are not, his color requirements are not that difficult, and it seems like it would be really bad to get wastelanded in this kind of situation. Yeah, it's not gonna do anything, right? Like,
so he shows them
Like-
both. He shows both of them.
yeah, like that's the line that you talked about before
Yeah.
Thorn, and it would have been good, but now that there's a Thorn,
Mm-hmm.
it's not effective. Yeah, so
And
that's
packs
the
it
game.
up.
Yeah, that draw was basically perfect for Matt. Like,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what Matt's deck does, I guess.
oh, of course,
It's-
I'm not saying that it's unlikely. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
basically all the cards are positioned to do that, like in some form.
Have you played against either of these two before? Do you find either of them might find pressure to be more taxing on their playstyle than the other? I've never played against Matt at all. I played against Daniel a few times and he seems fine.
I played against Matt once. He beat me in the top 8 of the Masters, the
Yep.
Legacy Masters.
Yep.
He wasn't playing this deck. He was playing Sneak Attack. But yeah, it was okay. I mean, I lost pretty convincingly.
Yep.
But I can't say too much about that. But it looks like we're going to game 3. I'm not. Did you manage to see whether Matt changed his sideboarding plans, like based on being on the draw?
No, I think they both just picked up
They both
and
just
started shuffling.
kept their 75.
Yeah.
We're getting an answer now.
Oh, Matt did change one card. Sorry.
Okay, but yeah, he did change one card, but I assume he would have kept the Sphere Thorn plan alive, or maybe. I'm not certain exactly, but maybe he would just side in Thorns, because Sphere impacts him a lot more than Thorn does. Like, Thorn basically doesn't stop him at all, whereas... but they basically do the same thing against Dan, so...
And he really didn't get much info from Dan that game either, on what Dan's
he didn't,
sideboarded at all, so...
Yeah, I think... Well, Dan didn't get to cast a single spell,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, unless he sided in some strange combination of lands, you would expect that to not be very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks like Dan's mulliganing. I think I saw only one land, but I could be wrong there. It could easily not be the case.
Sorry. So, sorry.
Yeah, so... Yeah, Dan's mulliganing. Looks like there's been some sort of split sleeve. I think those are Ultra Pros. It happens a lot with Ultra Pros.
Yeah, I remember during a draft I accidentally broke like 4 of my opponent's new Ultra Pro sleeves once. He was not happy.
Yeah, there's a certain way in which you can shuffle them that causes them to split like crazy. I remember I had the same problem with Player's Choice.
Oh, yeah.
Not Player's Choice. Yeah, Player's Choice actually. If you shuffled them like back to like vertically, like
Yeah. Like into each. You mean into each other?
yeah,
or?
I mean like if you riffle them, like vertically, then you'd have. I found that they'd split insanely, and so I had to change the way I shuffled because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is Dan going to shuffle his deck after this? Because I mean, he just turned some cards around. Like he effectively didn't shuffle then, kinda.
What's up?
So he'd shuffle his deck, pass it to Matt.
Yeah.
Matt split a sleeve.
Yeah.
Dan picked the card up, changed the sleeve around, put it back, and didn't shuffle it all.
Then Matt shuffled. That's fine.
Yeah, well, Matt shuffled, but Daniel effectively didn't shuffle.
He should have shuffled. That's okay. Looks like the game's underway. Flutter Strand for Dan and a Ancient Tomb for Matt.
I deserve that.
It looks like
Paddy's having a crack at me.
yeah.
Um,
We're getting some conflicting instructions from
who I am?
from our producer.
our guy on the floor.
Uh huh.
Is that?
We can't really
I won't name
tell.
names.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay,
So
so
it looks
Dan-
like he's cracked his fetch, played a Tundra and a counterbalance. Once again, this is a blind counterbalance, so it'd be interesting to see like whether it's effective without top. Like, does he have top? Can you see?
No, he had swords. Swords.
Swords,
Jace. Sorry.
Jace, and
Yeah,
two
and two
lands.
lands.
Yeah. So drawing an Arid Mesa. That's strange he didn't play the Arid Mesa. I would expect him to
Yeah.
play the Arid Mesa because then if Matt casts a spell and you don't like it, you can shuffle it away,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, it's
But-
not like he's going to be doing any. I mean, I guess he has to pay 3 for his swords with the Trinisphere anyway. Maybe he wants to save this fetch for later. I guess that's.
Yeah,
I don't know, that's-
Perhaps he wants to save the fetch for post Jace. Like that would make sense, right?
Sure.
That's strange he didn't flip. Does he not have any fours?
Uh,
Like those decks could very possibly not
yeah, he's
have
got
any
Jace.
fours.
He has Jace.
Oh sure, but maybe only has one Jace.
Sure.
Or maybe one only left one Jace in.
Okay, I mean, perhaps. I guess.
Oh no,
So
he
there's
has three
3
Jace.
main. I mean, I guess he could have
I mean,
sided
like,
them out. I
it seems-
don't know. Would you side down to 1 or 2 though? Like,
Yeah, that seems reasonable because it's not a very good card to draw when you're they have lodestones and thorns. It's basically the worst card to draw, right? Because it's the most expensive card.
yeah. Okay, so that was pretty cool. He Jace brainstormed
Jace-stormed, yeah.
into top terminus and
Wear Tear, I think.
yeah.
Yeah,
Keeping terminus in his hand, if that's
Yep.
correct. I think like
yeah, no, that's right. I assume he just wants he wants to put the card on top that's most likely to hit something, and
yeah, sure.
So Lodestone's getting cast. That's definitely not going to get counterbalanced. What was that cavern naming? Do we know what the cavern was naming? Maybe Lodestone got like Golem. That's a possibility.
Okay, I
Oh.
can't see his hand either.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that kind of. I think we're finding it now. Yeah, it was Golem. Okay.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, that makes sense
Cool,
because it means that if he had any further golems, then further golems would be uncounterable. Like this turn, it's not so much of an issue because, of course, but I guess he could be worried about counterbalance.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So it looks like something's happening.
I think he's just tanking. I think he's just thinking about what he wants to do.
It's a complicated situation.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has some options. I mean,
Looks
I guess
like-
also. I mean, not knowing what Matt's going to be running out next turn and not having that force kind of makes that a bit more, I guess, of a gamble in some way.
Yeah, so it looks like the Jace brainstormed, then the Lodestone tried to attack it, but it got worn torn.
Or not torn.
Yeah. And now a Grim Monolith is coming down, so that's not good for Matt that he didn't have another business spell to cast there, because that would have been the turn where basically Dan
Yeah.
was tapped out on resources. Like, now that he has Jace, gets to untap, and given that it's floating the Terminus on top as well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's looking like,
Brainstorms, hitting land top.
yeah,
We've
lands are kind
already
of not
top-
great here.
Yeah.
He already has more than enough. Like, the Trinisphere at this point basically doesn't provide any pressure, which is not good for Matt. Like, the fact that the game's going this late and he's not,
Yeah.
gotten ahead somehow.
So Dan runs out the top to kind of just, I guess, clinch things as such. To
Yeah,
kind
I
of,
mean, it's still
choke up
useful
on
with
him.
the counterbalance.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
And
Even-
again, he's got a Oh. Did he not play an Arid Mesa? Sorry,
yeah,
the
he
Arid
has
Mesa's
an
on
Arid
the right.
Mesa,
Sorry,
so he has
just
3
pointed out.
mana in
Yeah.
case he wants to cast a spell. But I don't think he has any spells to cast, but...
No, I mean for the
Right, being
need
able to,
crack,
yeah.
shuffle,
to,
and then top
to look
to-
at new
yeah.
cards if he wants to counter something with balance, right? Counterbalance. So it looks like Matt is going to cast a spell. We hope it's good. 6. Looks like a worm coil.
Okay.
A spine of Ishtar, sorry.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's a 7. For those who don't know, it's a 7 cost artifact. When it enters play, it just destroys a permanent, and when it goes to the graveyard, it triggers to return to your hand.
Yeah.
So you can sack it like I remember in Block Constructed. With it, you
Yeah.
could loop it with Phyrexia's Core to like
Yeah.
as
That
an
was
end
really fun in
game
that.
end game inevitability tool. Like basically, if they only cast one permanent a turn, then you could kill it for 7 with Spine and kill something each turn for 9.
Yeah.
While each time gaining a life. So it's really interesting that he's decided that Counterbalance is more dangerous than Jace. Like,
Yeah.
it might be true, but I don't know. It seems like he's behind already, so Jace puts him further behind, whereas Counterbalance, if Counterbalance isn't good, it doesn't do anything. I know that sounds a bit strange, but
I mean, yeah. I mean, the Jace also gives Daniel an option to dig for answers as well. I guess.
yeah,
Yeah. No,
I would
I'm
have
inclined to agree with you.
I would have expected Jace to be killed, but Counterbalance is perfectly reasonable. If depends how he expects the game to go from now. Like if he expects the game to not if he expects that next turn he's gonna have to cast a powerful spell or die regardless of whether Jason in play or not, just because of the nature of the matchup,
Sure.
then killing the counterbalance is reasonable because it most prevents Daniel from interacting with a spell next turn or the turn after.
Yeah.
Whereas Jace probably helps him 3 turns from now.
Yep.
But it's definitely not something I would have done.
So Dan sees Spell Pierce, Island, Enlighten Tutor.
Yeah, so we're not certain whether Enlightened Tutor has a huge function left without the counterbalance. Obviously, it's insane with counterbalance because you can counter basically any spell. But now that he doesn't have the Helm Line combo, Helm Rest in Peace combo, rather, yeah, I'm not sure whether Enlightened Tutor is going to do anything insane. Although, actually, do you remember where they side in Humility? Maybe.
I think it was in his original, his first
Right.
7-card hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw something that I didn't recognize that I thought might have been it,
Humility,
but I
sure.
don't know. I can't.
Well,
I couldn't quite make out exactly what
if
the
that
card
were the
was.
case, then Lanny Humility would be insane. It would basically lock Matt out of the game.
Yeah.
Unless he found some way to loop the spine to kill it. And if we're just looking at his list, does he have any way to sack the spine?
Yeah. So Forge Master.
Right. But it's going to be difficult for the Forge Master to resolve, right? Does he have any lands?
Sorry.
Does he have any lands that do it? I assume not.
That sack it. Sorry.
Yeah, that sack the.
No, I don't think from memory. So there's that, and where are we? Was there something else? Chalice of the Void.
Yeah, so it looks like it's just the Forge Master, and it's going to be really difficult to get Forge Master to do anything, not just against Daniel's deck in general, but especially against Jace.
Although, is Forge Master is it a golem?
I'm not. I don't think it's a golem, but either way, it gets blanked by Jace.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure. And it's not. Okay. Yeah, no, it's not.
Maybe
it's a.
Maybe that's what they were checking as well.
Yeah, it's
Do
a
you think
construct.
it's possible? Seems unlikely.
Yeah. I don't know. Perhaps.
Magic's very hard. But yeah, so looks like we're
Okay,
going
they're
to
just
get
moving the
started soon.
They were just adjusting the camera.
Yeah, there's some technical difficulties which hopefully have been solved. A Sundering Titan. Is that a golem? That's important. It is a golem. It is a golem. It is a golem.
Okay, cool.
So
that's. Yeah,
oh right, because it had the oracle. Yeah, so that's what the
check was.
ruling was about.
Yeah. So he gets to. Did he only point 2 lands? No, surely not.
What's up?
I felt like he only pointed at 2 lands.
No, he pointed at.
He did point at 3. Sweet.
Yeah,
cool.
the 2 tundras and the Volk.
Cool.
That's why they're all getting tapped now, right?
Yeah, no, sorry. I thought I saw him point at 2, and then Daniel tapped 3.
Right.
Okay, so Daniel is enlightened tutoring.
Oh, he's studying the
No.
ensnaring bridge. That
Okay.
was
So it's the card in his right hand at the moment.
oh, and the humility. Yeah,
Oh,
I
so
would
both.
expect him to get humility. Like, although maybe ensnaring bridge is better here, just because like there's nothing small that you want to protect, and humility still dings for one to turn against Jace. Like if you
Yeah.
humility, your Jace still goes down, whereas if you ensnaring bridge, you're like
Okay.
assuming
Yeah.
that
Fair enough.
Daniel has enough resources to play basically everything that he draws, which is not that far from being correct, even if 3 lands are going to die. But he's decided to go for the safer route and get humility. Like, but it's safer because it protects him from like
Does he still have swords in hand?
further Sunray Titans. I don't believe so. Yeah,
So the lands die. Cool. Sunray
humility on top.
happens.
Yep,
Okay.
and it looks like
Spell Pierce top. Caracas is the hand.
yep, not cards which are super useful.
Yeah. Okay. He sees wear and tear, and I didn't quite make out the other two.
One was humility, obviously,
Sorry. Yeah.
but
The
I
third.
didn't see what the other card was either.
Okay.
Yeah, so it looks like the humility is coming down.
Thought about it for a bit.
Yeah, our producer's just trying to relay some very important information to us. And we hear you loud and clear, producer.
Definitely.
Yeah, so humility comes down, Jace's fate sealing. Yeah, so fate sealing, because he doesn't really need any more resources, he has the wear tear to get rid of anything troublesome, and the humility to blank abilities. Like, it blanks him from being, like, all of Matt's creatures, basically. All he's worried about is anything which he hasn't, like, considered. So, he's gonna brainstorm, Fate Seal with Jace in order to stop that from happening while keeping the Jace at least building loyalty to...
Yeah.
Because that's presumably the end game, is to Jace, right? Like,
Okay. So this is Wormcoil Engine coming down. Wormcoil's definitely not a golem, right?
yeah, Wormcoil
so-
Engine might be a worm.
Yeah. It's a worm.
It is a worm.
So Dan sees a brainstorm as well.
Yeah. So... Yeah.
So funnily enough, when the
Uh-huh.
worm coil dies, it actually kind of doubles its power.
Is that how it works? I thought it wouldn't trigger. Does it still trigger?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, so... Yeah, this is looking
Yeah,
pretty
sounds-
good for Daniel. Like, the fact that he has lots of mana, lots of resources, and humility is basically perfect. So now he just needs to find a way to not die to the 1/1s, which is not that difficult, and he'll
Considering he's
have
also
the...
still at 19.
Yeah, and he'll have the game locked up. Well, it's more about protecting Jace, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, even if he's just attacking, if for some reason Matt decided to kind of switch routes, there's
yeah, basically no danger of Dan
Yeah,
dying. Yeah, you're
either
right,
way.
you're right. So the fetch land is getting cracked. Looks like Dan didn't like what he saw. Fair enough.
I guess it's like the frustrating part for Matt.
Yeah,
Sometimes
like
playing against this deck,
he doesn't
not even sometimes. Like,
know that he's dead, but it's pretty likely.
yeah,
Like,
there's some awkward combination of draws on either side that could result in him not losing.
yeah, exactly. It's not like he doesn't have
But-
relevant cards in his deck.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, the chances that he draws enough of them in a row to actually mount some offense is very unlikely.
Yeah. So now Matt has no way of getting rid of that spine to kill the humility, right?
As far as I can tell, yeah.
Yeah.
Not taking into account the Scars of Mirrodin block constructed tech. So that's might be unfortunate for him.
He'll learn.
He might learn one day, we never know. But yeah, it looks like Dan has cracked his fetch, but still not found anything really good. but thankfully there's another fetch in hand to crack, so that's kind of funny. Yeah, this replacement Jace doesn't really do anything. Like, it seemed like Fate Sealing is probably just better than Brainstorming anyway. Like, not knowing that Matt doesn't have any way to kill the Humility. Seems like trying to... Yeah, and now he's found the Terminus,
Yeah, okay.
so... He's just content to plus
Sit
Jace
back.
until Matt dies.
Yeah.
Which
So
looks
that's
like...
a Tundra, is that correct?
Tarn, I believe.
A ton?
Scalding Tarn, yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
I think that's
Yep.
what it says.
Yep. You can definitely see the frustration on Matt's face. Kind of slinks back.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks, but...
It's magic.
Yeah, so the fact that he still has some chance to win if... Like, Dan basically has to try and protect the Humility at all costs. So, like, even though he doesn't know... Because he doesn't know that Matt doesn't have any answers to Humility, right? So...
And these are all. I mean, there's no real reason to just go ahead and scoop.
No,
right?
definitely not.
Like, this isn't Swiss and it's not timed. Well, yeah, it's not timed.
Yeah, you're correct, that's
So-
not timed. And it's also not Swiss, so what you said was just right. Like...
I mean, maybe he just likes playing Magic too. I mean, that's also a pretty good reason to keep playing.
Yeah. But yeah, Dan basically just has to go through the motions and just, trade resources until Matt's dead. It's not like there's anything really surprising that Matt can do, although Dan doesn't know that, as I said. Like,
Yeah. Okay. I mean, at this stage, it actually shouldn't take Dan that long anyway.
yeah, exactly.
So that should be fun.
It's interesting to note that the Jace brainstormed. I suppose he actually wants to find some real way to kill Matt. What do you think? Like, although it seems like Fate Sealing would be the best way to kill Matt, given that Humility blocks off creatures, right?
Yeah,
Like,
surely it's way quicker than swinging with the few 1/1s that he could possibly generate.
Uh-huh. Yeah, entreat the, squirrels or whatever.
Entreat the soldiers.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's...
Yeah, so
Swords
the
in the
middle worker
1/1.
gets swords. That means the Jace isn't going to take any damage. Not under any pressure.
Little worm coil. Yeah. And what is it like? What are
What's
the other
that?
few cards in his hand? I can't quite.
Me neither. I think one's a Trinosphere. I seem
Okay.
I see that kind of reddish glow,
Yep.
which isn't really the most effective thing at this point, especially since there's already a Trinosphere, which is not the
Yeah.
most effective thing. Like the duplication.
Yeah. So let's.
Yeah.
Did he
So
keep the V click in? Did we see?
we decided that V-Click was reasonable. Like.
Yeah. So he brought in Detention Sphere. Is that right? I saw a
Um,
Detention Sphere there.
I think there's a main deck D-Sphere.
Oh, sorry, that is his main. Okay. Sorry, yeah, the one off. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I thought that was in there.
Yeah, because he's
Cool,
playing
sorry.
the Enlightened Tutor list.
Ah, yeah, sure. Okay.
It's reasonable because it gives you a 3 to 2 to 4, as well as having 1s through 4s, as well as a random answer to any permanents that might be bothersome.
So Daniel's found another swords just to kind of safeguard that Jace, I guess.
Yep. If you swords the 1/1s enough times, then Jace will eventually kill. What's that creature? Forge Master, I believe.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So, unfortunately stymied by Humility.
Yep. So Matt has absolutely no other way of dealing with that humility at all, right? Just to, I confirm, no, no.
Not as far as we can tell.
Cool.
Like,
Okay.
you're looking at the deck list, I'm looking at the deck list too. Yeah. Although it is interesting they named Chalice in game one, given that it seems like it wouldn't like be as good against Miracles as you might expect, as it is against other decks. Like,
Yep. I mean, no.
of course we don't
It-
like really know the situation, but as
It's
commentators
still
we're going
definitely
to try and
it's
say
still
something
definitely
anyway.
frustrating for him.
For who? For Dan to have
Yeah.
Chalice, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, definitely not as good as it is against something like I don't know,
Delver or
Hells
whatever.
Delver, yeah.
While
Or a
there's
second
a
seed.
bit of a lull in this game, why don't we talk about how we went in the Legacy League? So
Sorry?
why don't we talk about how we went in the Legacy League?
Let's
so
not
Chan,
talk about that.
Chan, you can go first.
I think I went 0-3 playing out. I played Elves every round. I played Daniel in round 2, I think.
Uh huh.
And it was just kind of went how it usually does.
Yeah.
Nothing spectacular.
Sure.
Actually, no. I think I won game 2 due to Sylvan Library, but other than that, it was just kind of
Right.
we both played our decks, and I didn't quite go fast enough.
Was
You
that
said?
a sideboard card for you, the Sylvan Library?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
sure.
seen
So-
it very
so-
much in Elves lists, but
Yeah, so
it
there's
seems really good.
yeah, so there's usually one in the
Uh-huh.
sideboard. Yeah, it's definitely not a main thing. Yeah, it's pretty good in that matchup. I mean, they don't really put the heat on you as such to really worry that much about paying the full life
Right.
for
So
the
you
cards.
get to.
You just get to draw an extra bunch of cards, which
Uh-huh.
is pretty sick in that deck. So
Pretty sick in any deck.
yeah, yeah. Yourself?
I lost in the quarterfinals. I actually, in the match that was on camera, you'll be able to see it before this one probably. So if you haven't, go back and watch it. Like, I won't spoil it for you in case you haven't seen it,
Yeah.
but I lost.
How did you win the league
I
itself?
already spoiled it for you.
Thank you for that.
I was 6-0 in the Swiss. I actually didn't drop a game. It was pretty sick.
You didn't have a game at all.
That's true.
Okay.
But losing in the quarterfinals was kind of
Kind of
unfortunate.
makes up for that in a pretty negative way.
Uh-huh. But we won't dwell on that. So back to the game. Looks like there are some angels. Like, I think that die in the middle of like the chain veil or whatever it's called represents some angels. So
Yeah, yeah. Just 3. It's 3, I think.
yeah.
I mean,
so,
I'd like to say that's a significant clock, but it's
no,
really not.
not at
considering
all.
the
It's going
Jace
to
is
take
sitting
7
inside of the ring.
turns. And Jace is going to take 1 turn. Well, more than 1 turn, really, but
yeah.
functionally 1 turn.
Yeah.
Cool.
Have you ever won through a Jace ultimate?
No, although I have seen someone Jace ultimate themselves.
Yeah.
Themselves, yeah. I think that's right. To get more cards in the library.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, I imagine it would be pretty difficult. Like, if that's the case, they should probably have just been brainstorming, right? Like, yeah. Dan just deciding to save us all the trouble, and no, not deciding to save us all the trouble. Spinning top, cool.
Yeah. Okay. Here, I mean, his hand's pretty stacked, and Matt's is not.
Oh, maybe we can see a second ultimate. That would be fun. Wouldn't that be fun?
I've never seen that. Yeah, I would actually really love to see that personally.
No, brainstorming. That's okay too.
Playing to his out, so.
I mean, like, you really don't want to lose from this position. It's pretty embarrassing. So, we definitely don't begrudge him for that.
No. Although that is a story to tell.
Yeah,
pretty impressive
I don't
stories to
really
tell.
want to tell those kind of stories. Like, I prefer to just let it
That's
sink.
probably why you win a lot more Magic than I do.
Like,
I mean, it's definitely one of the reasons.
uh-huh.
I don't think it's the sole reason.
Yeah, there might be some like correlation issues.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
But yeah, so this game will be over soon.
That goes for the draw.
Yep. Not really too much to say. but we're gonna say stuff anyway. Yeah, so it looks like the final like machinations are happening to get the game over.
I'm impressed with Matt not tilting. he does well. He did really well.
Yeah. All right. So that was the semi-final. So
Well done to Daniel.
will be going to the final
Do we-
to
do we-
face someone we don't know yet.
Do we know who Daniel's playing at all? He's playing against Jacob Phillips, who is playing. I didn't see his deck. Sneak attack. Okay.
Yeah. So he's playing against Jacob Phillips, playing.
Something. A deck of cards. Magical cards. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That would have been.
Jacob Phillips is playing
oh, yeah.
mono red
that-
sneak attack. Yeah. So
Yeah,
he's got Emrakul's, Gristlebrand's, you know, the usual kind
Yep,
of stuff.
cool.
Sneak attack through the breach, just a all-in combo deck. Like
For fun.
he basically has no other backup plan apart from comboing them. So yeah, we're back to the booth.
Cool.
So thanks for watching the semifinals. It was a long match, lots of interesting decisions, but eventually
Lots of
Daniel
fun magic.
closed it out.
Well, thank you for having us,
Yes,
Wolfie.
thanks for watching.
And we'll catch you later.